Hey guys, super cool video for you today because we are not doing the typical thing. We now have Amanda Larson in from Sweden, which is really cool, but we're at the start of her prep. Okay, so she's just coming off of off season, and like most ab videos you see, people are ripped and getting in shape, but this is a real video. This video is about how far can we get her before her show. So we just did some measurements using our 3D scanner, and we found out that the smallest part of her waist right now is 27.12. The smallest her waist has ever been for a show is 24 and a little bit of change, right? 24 and some change. So we set a goal that we want her to have her waistline 1 inch smaller than it's ever been by her next show date, which is gonna give us, we're trying to do that in about a 16-week period. So that means that we need to lose 1 inch per month or a quarter of an inch per week. I think it's very realistic for us to do that because she hasn't done very aggressive, specific waist training exercises, and I think taking 1 more inch off her waist is gonna be a big help to her physique, making her shoulders look wider, her hips look wider, and making when her waist is smaller. So we're gonna do that by doing a couple things. One is to wear a waist trainer, and these waist trainers we had specifically made for us, they're just a little bit thinner in the waist. So usually the waist trainers will be about this thick, and then everything gets in the way of actually shrinking the part we want to shrink. And we also have these strings that help us tighten them quite a bit. We had these made for us, so if you want one, it's in the description below. But we're gonna go ahead and put her in it so you can see exactly what it looks like. And this is part one of the few things we're gonna do for getting the waist smaller. So now we're jumping into a waist trainer. As you can see, she's tightening it up. One of the reasons we really like these waist trainers is because most waist trainers you just get into and they have little hooks. The problem with those waist trainers is they're loose enough to get on you, which means they're not tight enough to do anything. With this one, we put it on loose and then we tighten it, and that's when things start happening. So you can see she's really cranking on those. And then from there, she's just gonna wrap it around and tie it up. And now this is really based on comfort and how long you've done this. You know, some people will crank it all the way down and they have a couple different sizes so they can go smaller when they get closer to show. So generally we'll have people wear it for 2 hours a day, and then when they're within 6 weeks of a show, we add 1 hour a day as they get closer to the show. So at 6 weeks out, they could wear it for 3 hours a day, and then 5 weeks out, 4 hours a day, and so on and so forth. One of the other things we're gonna do to train the waist and get the waist a little smaller is we're gonna wear a belt during exercise. This is a high quality belt, but not too thick, okay? For bodybuilding, we wanna use kind of a thinner belt that's more malleable, and we're gonna wear it when we exercise. We're gonna try to minimize using the oblique walls during exercise and keep the waistline small. So she's gonna wear this pretty much every time she exercises. So training arms, it's everything. It's not like how you usually wear weight belts, like when you're going heavy with legs and whatnot. And we sell these on our website if you ever want to see those, same description as the waist trainer. When she wears this, there's no real tricks to it. She just cranks it on as tight as she can, and as she gets better, she'll wear it even tighter. So we're just gonna get it as tight as she can. And then that's how she starts exercising. At first, this is gonna be pretty uncomfortable to exercise with the belt being this tight, but after a few weeks, it's honestly, it's pretty easy to do. You'll see your waistline start coming down right away. So.
Cool. I think this is going to be really good for me, actually, because my obliques are really strong.
Yeah.
So it's going to help to have the belt telling me not to incorporate them.
Yeah, so the main thing is when you're wearing a belt, there's this thing called the Larson maneuver, which is where you breathe your stomach out and you breathe out your air. And when you breathe out your air and you push your belly button out, you push your belly out, like the powerlifters do, what it does is it puts pressure on the belt this way, which actually supports the back from the back. So when you put pressure on it. But we're not using it for that reason. So we're just trying not to push on it at all, like during squats and everything. We're just trying to keep it minimized, keep your breathing up top, okay? So yeah, so that'd be one of the tricks to really help bring that waistline down. So here's another tip for bringing that waistline down is we are going to train the abs a little bit, okay? So don't be afraid to train abs. All those things you hear about training the abs to get your waist bigger, that's not really a thing, okay? Now, if you did it really heavy exercises all the time, yeah, your waistline might get a little bit bigger. But we're gonna do these the way that abs are meant to be trained. Abs are an endurance muscle fiber, which means they are primarily red muscle fiber, and they don't get that big. So white muscle fibers get really big. So if you think of like explosive moves and big people like football players who do explosive moves, that's a white muscle fiber person. If you think like runners and people who run long distances, that's a red muscle fiber person, and the abs are a red muscle fiber group, okay? So they're not gonna get that big, but you have to train them right, and almost everyone trains them wrong. So let's look at how the abs work, and let's make sure we're doing it right. Almost every muscle has an antagonistic muscle group, okay? So when you look at training the abs, the opposing muscle is gonna be the erectors, okay, which is the lower back muscles. So the definition of abs contracting is to increase spinal flexion, okay, which means that her back is gonna be rounded. So that is spinal flexion, and that's when the abs are contracted. You see how round her lower back is though? That's very important. So her hips are tucked under, very round here, okay? Most people, when they contract their abs, they don't do this right because all they do is they bend at their hips basically like this. And what that does is it flexes the psoas muscle, okay? So when you flex the psoas muscle, it's kind of like you're sitting, and this is flexed. But your abs don't need to work here, okay? They will stabilize, but they won't be contracting, okay? So let's go ahead and show you the right and wrong way of doing abs. And I bet you a lot of you have been doing this wrong, so hopefully you pick up a tip from this. So go ahead and jump in. Now we're gonna show you the less correct way of doing this. She's gonna come up with her body without doing any spinal flexion. So go ahead and go for it. You see almost everyone at the gym doing it this way. She's pulling mainly on her hip flexors, but her abs aren't even really in a contracted state. They're basically straight. Okay, so the abs aren't gonna contract that way. Think of it like a bicep muscle. The bicep muscle doesn't contract this way, right? If you held a weight, you'd feel the bicep muscle stabilize a little bit, but it's not contracting optimally. We have to go like this to get the bicep to flex, which means we have to go like this to get the abs to flex. So it's a lot different move. It's a lot shorter movement, but it's the best way of doing it. So what we're going to do is a very small movement that looks like she's not doing much, but I promise you it's a lot more contraction on the actual abs itself. One of the key things is she's gonna breathe all her air out when she's doing this. When she's contracting, she's breathe all her air out. And then from here, she's gonna bend from here up, not from here up. So go ahead and contract. She'll bend the lower back, breathe out. She'll come down, but she won't go all the way down and rest her head. So breathing out, squeezing, really flexing the muscle. That's the key to this exercise, is really, really flexing the muscle and squeezing hard as you can. But as you can see, it's a very small movement. Now the next thing that she's gonna do to make this a little harder is she can put her hands way up here, which adds leverage to the exercise. Because her hands are farther away, there's kind of more weight. She can also grab a band, put a band down here. She can grab a plate, maybe a 10-pound plate, beat it behind her, and add more tension to that exercise too. This applies to every ab exercise you do. You have to get spinal flexion in order for the abs to contract optimally. If you're not doing that, your abs are not going to contract optimally. You're just gonna stabilize the core. It's not gonna do much besides get your hip flexors stronger. And they don't need to be any stronger because we get them really strong when we're sitting down. One of the key things we're gonna do to get the waistline even smaller is to do an exercise called the vacuum. You guys might have seen it before. I did a really full video on it. If you wanna see a more thorough video on how to do proper vacuums, watch this video right here. But we're gonna teach her exactly how to do it. Basically, what we're gonna do is try to hold our breath in. You're gonna breathe all your air out. So breathe all your air out. Now you suck in your stomach without sucking in air, and suck in your stomach. And you're gonna try to hold this move. So she breathes out all her air, sucks in her stomach without sucking in air, holds this as tight as she can for about a 10-second period, and she tries to work her way up. And she breathes out, breathes in again, rests for about 10-15 seconds, and does 5 reps of that, holding it for as long as she can each time. This is part 1, phase 1 of a 3-phase exercise to get your vacuums to be really, really good and to help your waistline be smaller by naturally being tighter. Again, the full video is the one I just pointed to. All right, guys, so those are some of the tools and tricks that we use to get her waistline smaller. Last time she got her waist at the smallest was where?
24 inches.
So now, follow along. We're on the road to
23
inches. Will she get there? Follow her below, her channel's below. We're gonna be doing this, and she'll be posting updates and seeing where she's at 16 weeks. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe so you can see all the new videos. And we wanna know, what are you doing to help get your waistline smaller? Maybe there's some things we're missing that we can share with the world. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we're out.